Broadcasting from Detroit's Cass Corridor, it's the Metro on WDET. I'm Robin Vincent. Today on the show, a new report confirms what many riders already experience. Southeast Michigan remains deeply car dependent. The Regional Transit Authority says it's making steady progress. We'll talk about whether that's enough to close the access gap. Then we widen the lens. If transit keeps hitting the same barriers, should the region consider how its municipalities are structured? A former Detroit mayoral candidate joins us to argue that stronger regionalism could unlock resources and equity. And before the hour ends, we turn to another household pressure point: water. The Great Lakes Water Authority is proposing its largest rate increase yet. We'll hear why and how residents are responding. We begin with a new regional report that confirms what many Detroiters already know. If you don't own a car, getting around here is really tough. In Metro Detroit, the vast majority of residents live within a 10-minute drive of a grocery store. But without that reliable car, fewer than half can reach those same stores by walking, biking, or taking a bus. And the same pattern holds true for schools and healthcare. So the report and a recent State of Transit event are telling us the same thing. Our region is too disconnected. We need to do better at linking the city and suburbs by bus, bike, and foot. But how? Ben Stupka is the executive director of the Regional Transit Authority of Southeast Michigan, and he's here to talk about what the RTA hopes to accomplish this year to keep connecting neighborhoods and people. Ben, welcome to the Metro.
Thank you so much for having me.
So first things first, what are your goals for improving public transit options and connecting Southeast Michigan this year in 2026?
Sure. So we are very lucky to have had a lot of success over the last 2 or 3 years in taking on some very key services for the region. So we're really looking in 2026 to expand those services and to improve those services. That includes the Q-Line streetcar, which we really view as the front door to regional transit, the first opportunity for someone to take transit in this region that maybe hasn't done it before. We also have our D2A2 service, which connects downtown Detroit to Ann Arbor, and our DAC service that connects downtown Detroit to the airport. Both of those services have been doing great, increasing ridership and proving that if you put services in places that people need them, they will use them. We're also working with all of our transit providers, SMART in the suburban communities, Detroit, DDOT here in Detroit, and the People Mover and the Ride in Ann Arbor, plus other community providers to look at some of the state funding opportunities that are going to be available for us that were in last year's budget, and to really look at how we can leverage an investment we just made in what's called the Transit app, which is the first app that we've had in this region where people can plan their trips, find real-time information, and actually pay for their trips for any transit service in the region.
I want to think about some of these pivotal new services or newer services that you mentioned. In particular, I want to think about the DAX service to the airport, especially because before the show started, you were telling me, Ben, that one of your favorite things to do is when you are traveling to a new place, you take transit to a record store in that new place, and that gives you a feel for the new city or place that you're in, and you get to experience the textures of that place in a different way. Talk about why it is so crucial to have some kind of nonstop transit service from a city interior to the airport.
It's absolutely essential. I mean, the airport is not only the front door to our region for visitors, it's also a place where we have tons and tons of employment opportunities and employees, and having that express service, that really easy to use service for people to get on and just get right downtown is so incredibly important. You add into it the growth in conventions and tourism that's happening in and around downtown Detroit. It's just absolutely essential. We're really the only major region that did not have that really clear express connection. So the last almost 2 years that we've had it, we've seen it grow. And we've seen the ridership not only be people visiting from outside the region, but people within the region going to the airport to travel, and a lot of employees at the airport using it too. So a nice mix of people using that service.
I mean, I want to point out it's less than, what is it, $6, $7, $8 for a ticket?
It's $6 if you one way if you book beforehand, which most people do.
This is incredible.
Yeah.
And when
so
I
compare
was
that to parking.
Right.
Yeah.
When I was living downtown, I loved this service. But here's something that struck me about it. And this is the qualm that I hear from a lot of people, is that this is hard to access. Because are you going to pay for an Uber to get to this bus? Are you going to pay a lot for parking somewhere nearby? We know that all of the parking garages in downtown Detroit are really cost prohibitive for a lot of people. So what's the answer to that? What's the answer to when it comes to things like the Q line, like the bus D2A2 that goes from Detroit to Ann Arbor, and DAX that goes from Detroit to the airport, to making these more accessible and easier for people to get to?
Sure. So there's lots of different solutions. So one of the things I will say about both the DAX service and the D2A2 service from a transit perspective, they are very close and in the heart of our regional transit network. So you can access them from the People Mover, the Q line, DDOT, SMART. Any of those services are right within walking distance purposefully for those services. One with D2A2 being at Grand Circus Park, and DAX being right near the Rosa Parks Transit Center. So from a transit perspective, we have good connectivity. We are having some conversations about potential park and rides, knowing that the cost is prohibitive, but I think that is something we're attempting to move forward, recognizing that could make it a more regionally attractive service. And we are going to start having conversations about seeing if there are other areas of the region that would benefit from a similar service, whether that be an express that connects into the DAX or something from Oakland County or Macomb or somewhere else that goes to the airport. So we're just at the beginning of having those conversations, because I think that will be the ultimate solution.
As I like to say on this show, the journey of 1,000 miles, it does begin with one step. And in terms of connecting Southeast Michigan by public transit, your plan is exactly that. It's to go slowly. It is to go step by step, connecting the area by bus or other public transit options bit by bit, instead of trying to pass another RTA millage that would create the opportunity for a more comprehensive transit network, something sweeping. Why is the slow plan a good one?
So the slow plan is a good one because it involves all of the different providers that have grown up and served their communities for so long. So I'm not just talking about our large transit providers like SMART and DDOT, but some of the community providers in places like Lake Orion, Highland Township, Richmond up in Macomb County, Chelsea out in western Washtenaw County. There are services out there that have been in those communities for a really, really long time, serving seniors, serving with people with disabilities, and they're doing a wonderful job. We need to find ways to support them growing, continuing to serve their customers really, really well, and then find the seams. Where are the seams of those services? Where their customers aren't able to, say, get into Ann Arbor from Chelsea, aren't able to get into Detroit from Lake Orion. Find those seams and try and work with everybody to create those connections to those services.
So what you're saying is sometimes change has to happen slowly in order to make it more palatable for people.
Absolutely. And I think being able to show value and show services like a D2A2, like a DAX, even improvements in some of the community service, it shows people who maybe aren't as comfortable or don't understand the benefits of transit. It shows them in a shorter term some of those incremental improvements so they can point to and say, you know what, that investment that Oakland County made, say, in 2022 in our services in Lake Orion, I can see how that's improved in my community. I'm interested in more. I want to talk about more. I want to make more connections. I want to try transit. So we're really trying to make sure we're getting every year, even try and get every quarter, getting a new announcement out there, getting a new service out there, trying to just make it more attractive and keep building and building and building. We want to pick up the momentum at which we can build as new funding opportunities become available. But that's really the idea, is to give people that sense of value in transit.
Yeah, when you look at the region, are there places that seem most ripe for connecting? I mean, I've heard you invoke Lake Orion a few times here. Are there different suburbs that could be better connected to each other by bus travel, whether it's via SMART or through services like the Detroit to Ann Arbor bus or the bus from Detroit to the airport?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the big efforts that's going to be happening this year is that Wayne County is going to be working with all of their major municipalities. So think of your Livonias and your Cantons and others, Northville. Those are the last communities in the region that are not formally part of the regional transit system. So there's going to be a big effort from Wayne County that we're supporting along with other partners to see if we can get those communities to be part of the transit system. So you're thinking about, again, Livonia, which is like the 5th highest job in the region, Canton, which is the bridge between Washtenaw County and Ann Arbor and Detroit, and trying to really connect those communities in the region. So that's going to be a big piece of business for us to do this year.
Do you think those communities are craving that connection, or do you think, as we were talking about, that you have to go really slow in order to get the buy-in?
I do think that those communities are craving and do understand the benefit that a transit connection would have. I think they absolutely see it. I think the style of transit, what it looks like, what it feels like, who it serves first, is always where it becomes a little difficult. So trying to just introduce fixed route transit, our typical bus systems, looking at flexible services, which have been really, really popular in some of the suburban communities, trying to find the right balance of all that is the effort we're going through right now. But in terms of the desire to have those services, those communities do seem very positive about seeing, like, yes, we have regional assets here. We have the need for a regional employee base or a regional employment base, and this is absolutely a benefit. So now the devil's in the details and getting it done, but there does seem to be very, very positive momentum there.
It's the Metro on WDET. I'm Robin Vincent. My guest is Ben Stupka. He's the executive director of the Regional Transit Authority of Southeast Michigan. We're discussing the RTA's goals to connect Southeast Michigan with public transit options in 2026. I want to now zoom in on Detroit, where certain corridors see more traffic, Ben, than others, making them really ripe for transit investment. Is there any consideration for having buses and the Q line have their own dedicated lanes on Woodward? I mean, I hear a lot of people making gripes about this, and the Q line has become the butt of jokes for this reason as well. And also to have protected lanes for buses on streets like Grand River and Gratiot and Michigan Avenue.
Yeah, so absolutely. We're in very active conversations with MDOT, the state transportation agency that is the road owner, about being able to pilot some new and expanded dedicated lanes and other interventions, not only in and around the Q line, but some of the other corridors. They've been very productive conversations. They're leading some planning studies that are showing, the communities want these types of benefits, reflecting what it is, the comments you just made. So we're really looking at what corridors can we expand those types of things into. Our focus is in and around the Q line, because if we can create a dedicated lane for the Q line, SMART and DDOT can both use it. So we're hoping to hear the final word on some federal funding to be able to actually just a little bit of federal funding to be able to expand some dedicated lanes for the Q line.
I see you slightly smiling here as you say federal funding that you're waiting for. What can you say about that? More broadly, I think a question on a lot of people's minds is federal funding and what that means for some of these really crucial transit projects throughout the state. Yeah,
so this is a good example of kind of this incremental approach. So I think maybe 2 years ago, 2024, we worked with Senator Peters' office to put a congressionally directed spending request together, a small one around $2 million for dedicated lanes in the Q line. And we just heard with the new spending bill that passed that we did receive that earmark. So it's a small amount of funding, but that could go towards putting, a mile of dedicated lanes for the Q line and other transit. So again, that's the type of work it takes. It's 2 years, you're advocating, and we finally got that announcement. So it'll take some time for us, obviously, to put all that together, but that's the type of thing we're able to do and then be able to parlay that into potentially expanding that with some of the new state funding. So that's how we're kind of building the funding stack, as we call it, to build up these services.
Are you concerned about federal funding for any of your other projects? Because we know we have a very finicky administration in terms of what projects the Trump administration decides it wants to fund. And we know now there is some controversy going on, not necessarily in your purview, but when we think about the new Gordie Howe Bridge, I mean, it feels like this very uncertain moment for transit and for other projects where we do need to lean on some federal funding.
So I would say that the most recent spending bill that just passed did have a fairly positive transit investment in it. There was kind of no reduction. Some of the Biden era investments stayed. So that was a positive win, not a windfall, but a good steady.
Were you surprised by that? Because, I mean, I did hear quite a few Democrats talking about how happy they were that they were able to get things into this bill that had long been talked about as being they were going to not be included.
Surprised. I don't know if surprised would be the right word. I guess I'm happy that it happened. I do think that the administration does prioritize infrastructure and does understand, I think, that core infrastructure investment is important to our economic future. So I'm not overly surprised that is part of it. I think there's some programs that were more focused on complete streets, bicycle and pedestrian improvements, certainly carbon reduction and those types of things. But frankly, better transit is going to help with all those things. Yeah. And some of the grants that we've had in this region that were more focused on, say, hydrogen buses and things like that, those have made it through. So we've been lucky so far. Doesn't mean you got to mind your P's and Q's and make sure you're kind of watching all the federal dollars. But so far it's been pretty straightforward.
So you are cautiously optimistic.
Always. I'm in transit in Southeast Michigan.
That is.
I can't live any other way. Yeah.
The name of the game for you
That's
here.
Right.
Cautiously optimistic.
That's right.
We're going to give you a middle name. In 2025, you asked residents in Southeast Michigan about regional transit, and the vast majority, we're talking 87%, saw it as a major benefit. And yet, regionally, it's not up to par yet. Why is there a gap between people wanting this but not voting for it?
So I think that the last time we asked them to support it regionally was almost 10 years ago. So I think going back in history, right, that was a very close election, and the initiative only lost by about a percentage. So I do think that we have to look at that and see it. After some of these incremental improvements, is there an opportunity to look at something like that again? So I don't think that's off the table for us as a region. It's just not what we're doing in the next couple of years as we're kind of building these pieces out. I will say some positive things. In 2022, Oakland County went all in and expanded its transit millage and had communities like Rochester, Novi, Waterford join in, and that was an overwhelming success from a ballot perspective. We'll see what happens with Wayne County this year, but I think that will be very successful as well.
Could we talk about that for
Sure.
a moment? Because we are running out of time here. And you've mentioned this, you've referenced that Wayne County could eliminate the ability for its localities to opt out of smart bus service. Macomb County Executive Mark Hackel has said that if Wayne County ends its opt-out option, then it will be more interested in investing in regional transit. Do you think that's true?
I do. I absolutely
Say more.
do. I think that Macomb County, to its great credit, has been the only county that has been all in on regional transit since Jump Street with Smart.
Macomb County.
Macomb County, yes.
Say it again.
Macomb, let's say it again for the record. Macomb County is the only county of the three major counties that Smart serves that has been all in terms of all their property tax entities, all their communities paying into a transit system, a smart transit system for years, decades. Oakland County in 2022 matched them. So they had about half their county that was in the smart system and half that wasn't. 2022, that went away. In 2024, 2024, some state legislation was passed that will allow Wayne County to ask their communities the exact same question. Mm-hmm. So this year, they're planning and gearing up to ask that question. Once that question is asked, and we'll see what the voters say, we have the opportunity to have Macomb, Oakland, and Wayne all in on transit. So those funding gaps start to get a lot smaller, and we can start talking about the bigger investments.
Macomb did this even though they didn't vote for the most recent RTA millage. Is that right? They
have been set up that way since probably 1986. I'm probably getting my dates wrong, maybe in the late mid-90s. So this is just something that and that's been their point this whole time. They're like, we've been here. So why are you asking us to invest more? We've been here this whole time. So I think to Executive Hackle's point is if everybody else is at the same page, now we can start talking about what does a future investment look like.
Ben, before I let you go, I have to tell you my transit dream, and I want to know what it's going to take to make my dreams come true.
Fire away.
I want to see the Q line go from downtown Detroit to Pontiac.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
What's it going to take?
So that is any rail expansion is a very, very expensive effort. And that would be, without me having my computer open and my research in front of me, that would be the biggest rail expansion in the United States in probably the last, God knows, 25 to 30 years.
Is anyone talking about this in your circle?
So we're talking about doing bus rapid transit and rapid transit investments, which are far more scalable at a corridor that's 27 miles long than expanding the Q line all the way up there. We're certainly starting to have conversations about what else can we do with the Q line. Is it going down Grand Boulevard, connecting into Henry Ford? Is it going a little bit further up north? Are there ways we can kind of connect into the greater downtown community with that? We're also, working with the People Mover, who's also looking at potential expansions and other connections. So our focus is really what I kind of call that like 7 square mile area, midtown to downtown for the Q line, and trying to get those expansions and connections into those hubs. The regional connections are really looking at bus rapid transit, dedicated lanes, and those types of things, because those are things we can scale, we can get done much more quickly, and would probably fall into the funding paradigms that we could afford.
All right.
Sorry to crush your dreams. We can make it effective. Yeah.
You have reined me in here, okay, Ben Stupka. What do you want your legacy to be when it comes to transit here? I mean, if that, I know I've taken you aback here for a moment, but I mean, we just talked about how daunting it would be to make my dreams come true and stretch the Q line from downtown Detroit to Pontiac, how that essentially hasn't been done in the U.S. But when you think about what can be done, what can be accomplished here, and if you had to distill that, let's say in the last 30 seconds that we have here, what would you say?
I want to have transit systems on every major corridor that my kids and my mom and my wife and my in-laws would feel comfortable taking and have pride in. That is what I want.
Ben Stupka, Executive Director of the Regional Transit Authority of Southeast Michigan. Thanks so much for joining me on the Metro. It's the Metro on WDET. I'm Robin Vincent. We just talked about how hard it is to get around in Metro Detroit without a car. But what if the real problem isn't buses or bike lanes? It's the borders. A former Detroit mayoral candidate has a radical idea about that. That's next here on the Metro. Stay with us.